At its height, the community may have been 700-800 people. Very active, involved in different affairs. There was Association Judéo-Chrétien, Amitié Judéo-Chrétien, that was back in the 50s and 60s. There was a B'nai B'rith, a lodge which was there for raising money for charity and putting on events. You'd have the synagogue would also have its own fundraising events. It was just the beginning of the State of Israel, and it was a state that was always under siege, and so there was trying to drum up support for the new State of Israel. You would have it was a vibrant community, close-knit. In the 1960s and 70s, you see a situation where kids who may have been better off in English than they were in French, a lot of them may have gone to McGill or gone to Toronto or different universities to study out of town. It also gave them a chance to meet other prospective spouses, because the choice in Quebec City was limited. So keeping up that idea of the tradition, people went away, and then the kids would not necessarily come back, and so the parents were getting older, and quite often when it came time to retirement, they would maybe follow and go to where their children were staying. Some families stayed, toughed it out. What you now see is the community really dwindled down to maybe 100, 120 people, maybe even less, that were identified with the Jewish community. In the community itself, we had a large synagogue on Crémazie, which is now the Periscope Theatre. As the community diminished, there was less need for this large space, and they rented it out to the Periscope Theatre. They still had like a chapel and what would have been the Jewish school, which was next to it, which is where the services were kept on going, and that's where it was when I first arrived in Quebec City in '89. And then the whole building, I think, was sold in 90 or 91, and for about a year the services were actually held at the Masonic Lodge on Garden Street, Rue de Jardin now.
Yeah.
The corner of Rue de Jardin and Rue Saint-Louis. And the interesting thing is, apparently 100 years or so before, that had been the same situation. Yeah. So it's I think there were quite a few Jews who were involved with the Masonic Lodge as well. I know that Mo Rosenheck, for instance, had been a Grand Mason and so on. And you can find quite an interesting history of Jews and the Masonic Lodges as well. So after the synagogue was sold in 91, I think, or 92, they decided to buy a building which is on Mérisy, which is where the synagogue is now housed, which is a bungalow which was then converted. So there's a small chapel.